I choose you, Retro Encounter! Welcome everyone to Retro Encounter. I'm your host, Josh Curry.
Is it too soon to quit this podcast?
That's Mike Sollosi.
Josh wants
Hi,
to be the very best, like no one ever was.
And that's Peter Triezenberg.
Hi, I'm Peter Triezenberg.
We also have Marcos Gaspar.
Hey there.
And Chris Gebauer.
Hey everyone.
So if you did not guess from that terrible intro, this month we are playing Pokemon, but we figured, unlike the other months that we've done stuff, we kind of added a special twist. Instead of all of us playing the same game, all of us are playing the same series, but different color of Pokemon for everything.
This is gonna be so confusing.
This first 5 minutes is going to be confusing. After that, we're going to talk big ideals. I think we'll be okay. So I played the most recent. I'm in the 3DS. I'm playing Pokemon X. I believe, Marcos, you're playing Pokemon Black 2?
Yep.
Mike is playing Pokemon Red and Platinum.
Yeah, I wanted to compare and contrast the first generation with the fourth generation, which, yeah, is taking a lot of time, but is sort of interesting in execution.
Peter, you're playing Soul Silver.
Yep, Gen 4 remake of a Gen 2 game, so looking forward to seeing how that turns out.
And then Chris is played Yellow and is currently playing Sapphire.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I feel like an underachiever because I'm only playing one game. But I think we actually have every generation covered. We're close. We're missing Gold and Silver. Wait,
Yeah,
no,
but-
because we have Soul Silver, so we're fine.
Yeah. Well, story-wise, and sort of content-wise, it's a Gen 2 game, but it has Gen 4 mechanics and Gen 4 everything else. But basic in terms of what gyms each person is going through, we have all 6 gens covered.
Yeah, so we're close enough, and I'm okay with that. So I think this is gonna be a mess. I think we're just gonna start off with. Obviously, all of us have played this game, right?
Yes.
All Pokemon game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I should have
Yes.
asked that before we started the show. It's one of those things you just kind of assume everybody at some point has played a Pokemon game. So let's start off with everybody's histories with the series. I'll start off because I'm already going. This is a game that's really close to home for me. This is hands down my first RPG. It was an RPG before I even realized it was an RPG, which I feel like happened to a lot of kids my age. And I got a gift from my grandmother. She's like, "Oh, kid, like so and so was talking about this, so I got you a Game Boy Color in this game." And I opened it up, and there's a big Pikachu on it. And I started with Pokemon Yellow, and that was like my intro. First of all, to basically Nintendo, since I was like a little kid, and then also to Pokemon and RPGs as a whole. So this kind of crafted who I was as a gamer. So it means a lot to me.
I didn't want to interrupt the touching story, but you had me confused for a second because I thought you were still talking about Pokemon X.
No,
First RPG.
Pokemon,
And then I
yeah.
was like,
So in between Yellow and your current playthrough of X, which other Pokemon games did you play?
Every single one.
Oh, okay. All right.
I started with Yellow, which is still, I think, Yellow and Gold are my two favorite Pokemons of all time. But I went Yellow, Red, Blue, Gold. Shoot, I'm gonna start screwing stuff up. Well, actually, I think I went Silver instead of Gold.
Well, we get the idea. You played all of them.
I rolled through all of them.
You don't need to list here every color.
I don't know. You asked. I thought you were interested.
Well, I mean, as much as I'm interested in anything about you.
You just want me listing a bunch of colors off?
Sure.
Yeah. So
Violet.
before I just keep going, like, why don't we kind of... You, Mike, you want to keep talking, so go ahead.
Oh.
Let's hear your...
Okay. Sure. Well, I'm a few years older than you, Josh. So Pokemon was not my first RPG. But I did get in through the front door. Basically, I think I was maybe 11 or so when Red and Blue came out, and I started playing those, and I got really hooked, and then I moved on right on to Gold and Silver, and played. I think I had Silver, and then played that right when it came out. But then I was sort of burned out on Pokemon. I didn't play any of the third generation stuff right away. But when I was in college, I had a very slow, boring job as a night watchman for about 2 years. And I basically spent half of my time patrolling and half of my time sitting in a room watching camera feeds. So naturally, I decided, you know what? I have this GPA. I'll start playing the the Pokemon games I missed. And so when I had this really boring night job where I sat around a lot, I played through Leaf Green and Emerald, and then got Diamond right when it came out, and played that, and then imported all of my stuff from that Leaf Green and Emerald file into Diamond. So my Pokemon Diamond file is insane. I think there's like 490 some Pokemon in that generation, and my Pokedex for Diamond. Pokedex. My Pokedex for Diamond has like 480 or so.
Jeez, nice.
So yeah, then I just got a little burned out. I received White 2 as a gift a few years ago and played that, and I have not played X or Y or the remakes of Ruby and Sapphire.
Yeah, I think everybody at some point kind of gets burnt out on it.
Yeah, well, I mean, sort of the gimmick of this episode is that structurally the Pokemon games are so similar that we can each play a different one and have, and basically have the same conversation about it.
Right, it's just the same damn game over and over again. And that was part of the reason, like, when we were kind of concepting this out, I immediately was like, I have to play X or Y. Like, I respected what they did with Black and Black 2. I liked that there was some sort of narrative sequel to that. But I needed to play something that had a different feel to it, and we'll get to it later, but I think X, for me at least, did a really good job. X gonna give it to you.
Sure. So so Marcos, what's your Pokemon background?
So my question is, did everyone receive the Pokemon promotional video on VHS as a kid?
No.
All right. No. You did not? No one did?
I think one of my friends did, and I did see it at his house.
Yeah.
This sounds familiar, but I did not own it.
Yeah, where it's like just one big, just like Pokemon promo for the series in the cartoon show. I think it was in 5th grade when I received it, and that's where I entered the series right at Red and Blue. In fact, my grandfather bought me both Red and Blue, and the strategy guide was all those stickers and stuff in the back. So I've been with it since the beginning. However, I didn't play Gold, Silver, Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald. I think I jumped back again on Diamond and Pearl by playing Pearl. Then played Black 2. Then played Black Pokemon White, and then Pokemon Y after that. And I mean, out of all of them, I think my favorite one is probably yeah. I'll go ahead and say this. I think it was Pokemon Black 2 that I really like. Ended up being my favorite of the series, even though I had strong ties to Red and Blue right from the get-go.
Yeah. The hard part is, so I said the numbers. I was 8 when I played Pokemon Yellow. I was that target age of, hey, here's this game. Oh, by the way, you're watching the Saturday morning cartoons. You should watch this too. And it quickly just destroys your life because it's all encompassing of every time you're doing some sort of entertainment function. Pokemon was there.
By this.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pokemon crossed over several different mediums.
Yeah, the TCG game also,
which,
even though no one actually played it, they just collected the cards for the most part. Was at recess, so even at school it was everywhere.
So I actually played the game. I went deep.
I did not play the Pokemon TCG.
I tried to play the TCG. For some reason, the rules never stick with me.
And the card game for, I think it was the Game Boy Color or whatever.
Yeah.
Really, really good game. And that might be why I like Hearthstone so much. I have no idea. But I was deep. Embarrassing. So, you could go. They had, for the first movie, if you showed up, they gave you a card. Yeah. Yeah, I went to that movie.
I don't think I've seen any of. I've seen a lot of the Pokemon anime from when it was first airing, but I don't think I've seen any of the movies.
Yeah, they're terrible.
They're probably at least a dozen by now.
They're so bad.
I couldn't tell you. And I've watched some terrible anime movies before. I'm not saying I'm above them. I'm just saying I haven't seen them.
I went to Yu-Gi-Oh! The movie for the same reason, just to get the trading cards.
So, and this is how you know it's so bad, because you're a little kid and everything's good at that age. And I remember leaving and my mom came and picked me up. She's like, "Oh, what'd you think?" I was like, well, I got this card." So I guess it wasn't that terrible.
The first 3 Pokemon movies are decent, but
I don't know.
They
I
never get-
stopped after that. They didn't offer any more cards, so I wasn't gonna go.
Sorry, Peter. I don't think I'm going to go out of my way to see him now. Now that I'm almost 30. But
we'll have a marathon one of these days. It'll be fun.
Sounds healthy. I like it.
don't include me in that we. But sure, go ahead.
So what about you, Peter? What's your
Um,
kind of history?
So I was 6 when I got into Pokemon.
We're trying to see who can be the youngest.
It's gonna be Peter. It's not me.
Probably, honestly. So I was in.
You and I are about the same age, right, Marcos?
No, we're not having this conversation. Keep going, Peter.
Okay, all right. Sorry, guys. Go ahead, Peter.
I mean, I was in first grade, and I didn't own a gaming system at the time. But I was getting really into the cartoon show, and the second movie came out, so I had like this like guidebook for it and stuff, and I was in that age group for it. I would play Pokemon Stadium at a friend's house on his N64, which was kind of my first exposure to the Pokemon video games. And so it was just the combat system, but I would play. He had the transfer pack, so he could use his Pokemon Red team in Pokemon Stadium. So I knew there were other games. I just wasn't like fully cognizant of how the series worked until the Game Boy Advance came out, actually, and then that's when I picked up Sapphire version and started playing the games myself. I got really into that and Fire Red version. And when I was in elementary school, I think Pokemon was a pretty like central part of my childhood. Like I made a lot of friends because of it. Like I used to play pretend with one of my friends who lived down the street from me. We used to pretend to be Pokemon trainers. I'm outing myself now. I was one of those kids.
You didn't pretend you were a Pokemon?
No, that's weird, dude. Nobody does that. You don't.
Yeah, nobody.
Who wants to be wandering around doing whatever they're doing and then have somebody throw a ball at them and have them be enslaved inside that ball the rest of their life? That sounds terrible.
So you didn't want to be like Hitmonchan or Hitmonlee and just like kick and punch stuff?
Nah. And if I was going to do anything, I would be a Charmander, let's be honest.
The Pokeballs could be super comfortable. You never know. Like tiny little like lounge suites or something.
I know this is
These
terrible.
These are questions I don't think.
I know this is terrible. I like to think of it just being like 4 like stone walls with like dripping water in the background and this like crappy stained mat on the ground.
So what you're saying is that we're training these Pokemon to celebrate the fact that we let them out to fight, and that's why they love you so much. Because you're letting them out of this bondage.
So you know, like when you look back at like Looney Tunes cartoons, and you look at like Pepe Le Pew and stuff, and it's like that stuff is twisted. Like nobody should be chasing around a cat like that. Like that is borderline inappropriate.
Borderline.
Like, I'm going with a borderline, which is for
right. Okay, sure.
Well,
it's the same thing for this. This is terrible.
You know,
okay, these are questions. Okay, go ahead.
It's funny you should mention that because in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, and that they reintroduced the where Pikachu follows you behind in Yellow version.
Yeah.
The lead Pokemon in your party always follows you in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, and this is to my knowledge, outside of Yellow version, this is the only time they ever retain that mechanic, and it actually does improve your like friendship with that Pokemon, that they're not trapped in their tiny little metallic prison.
Terrible in there.
No way, it's really comfortable in there. I mean, like that Robot Chicken episode where it's like really comfortable with all the sofas and carpet and all those Pokemon girls. I mean,
I love that when you have the squirrel being like, Squirtle, Squirtle, Squirtle. Damn it, I'm not gonna say this word anymore. Quiet, Tom, or they'll give you the gas. Just say the line.
So even if we're gonna agree that it's comfortable inside this ball, let's for argument's sake, they're still being shrunk to 1/100th the size. That cannot feel good to be just mashed together and then stretched out.
It is magic,
sure they're converted
Josh.
into energy or some crap. I don't know.
I think it's like honey.
So it looks in the show.
Sounds
It's
terrible.
magic, and you should believe in magic.
Oh, not today.
Just to wrap up my my Pokemon journey really quick. I skipped most of Gen 4. Came because I was in high school and Pokemon wasn't cool anymore. Then I decided to be a nerd again.
That was why I skipped Gen 3.
Yeah. And then I borrowed my friend's copy of Black, made it like halfway through it, didn't finish it. I kind of want to, because there are a lot of things in that gen that I liked. But then I got X and Y, and now I'm fully back on the Pokemon bus. So, yay.
Yeah, I think X is a great refresher. It's like a palate cleanser for the series.
It really reinvigorated my interest in the series. And and there are some like gripes people have that are valid, like with how it's kind of lacking some post game content. But I think it was just like the shot in the arm the series needed.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it.
So
I think Chris is next.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So similar to a bunch of you guys, I got Blue when it came out, so I was 8, and I absolutely loved the game. I got all the way to Victory Road, and I remember then I was at a cousin's house, and we were playing it, and left my Game Boy behind, and then got it back a few days later, and my younger cousin didn't understand the whole saving over your file, that there weren't multiple saves, because he was used to PC gaming. And yeah, I didn't really play a Pokemon game for a very long time after that. I was a little traumatized by that event as a kid. I really could not handle the fact that I had to do all of it over again after I'd put in so much time. I'd actually caught a Zapdos, and that took me forever. And I just thinking about going through it again, I just couldn't do it. And then I didn't have another Nintendo handheld until the DS, so I didn't play another Pokemon game until Black and White, and I played Black. But I also played that after the fact, because for a long time, I had nothing against Pokemon. I didn't think it was lame. I mean, I was doing plenty of other much nerdier things, but far too many. So it had nothing to do with that. I was always occupied in something else, and I remember one day just walking to a store and just being like, screw it. It's been forever. I want to play it. And this was right when X and Y had been announced. And so played Black, absolutely loved it, and then went back and hunted down a copy of Yellow, which is the copy I've been playing for this podcast. Played that afterwards, and then unfortunately, because I just played through 2 games when X and Y did come out. I really liked X, which is the copy I have, but about halfway through, I was like, I've done too much of this right now. I need to give it a break. And so those are the 3 games I've played, or 4, I guess now, including Yellow.
Nice.
And then also trying Sapphire, because I wanted to see kind of a much prettier 2D version of Pokemon, because I'd gone from Blue to then the kind of 3D models.
Mm-hmm.
It is interesting how this series has grown like over the years, to be honest. Like we say it's like the same game every time, and to an extent the structure is the same, but there's always been like some. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's new mechanical wrinkles and improved technology and way more extras with each new Pokemon game. But I mean, like you said a second ago, it's really the structure and the sort of the story and how the quest is set up that's the same with each game. And I mean, I don't know if I mentioned this before. My favorite Pokemon was Gold.
Absolutely.
Because my mind was blown when you beat the game and suddenly you get 8 more gyms and a new final boss battle. That's the only game.
Awesome.
You got 2 games in there.
Yeah, well, not really. It's more like
kind
1.5.
Yeah.
It's more in depth in Heart Gold and Soul Silver.
The game just feels bigger than any other game, because in every other one it's just 8 gyms, Elite Four, and then maybe you can play the Elite Four again. I mean,
yeah, and that's what everybody wanted. Like anybody that was watching the cartoon, I'm gonna call it a cartoon. It's not an anime to me. But you watch Ash as he goes through, and he like goes through all the colors, and he's an idiot because he always lets his Pokemon go. But he's
like an immortal child.
Yeah.
But
like, it's one of those things you wanted to have that same. Like everybody always says, "Oh, I really want a Pokemon MMO," which yes, and you want a Pokemon that you can catch every Pokemon in, and that Gold and Silver were the only times that it had that feeling of like the show of like, I wrap this up, I move on to season 2, and it was the first time that it was truly like it took the old game and included that, and it's kind of terrible because of that. Like the series peaks to me right there. Like Yellow will always be the best, but I can make the argument for Gold or Silver being better. And as soon as I got the next generation, I couldn't like move on and collect my old Pokemon and like go through that. Like that was a huge negative for me.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted that to come
played,
back.
I've played, I guess, 8 or 9 Pokemon games across the first 5 generations. Again, I've never played a Gen 6 game. And I honestly can say I've enjoyed all the ones I played, even though it's always a really familiar setup. Because every time I play a new one, there's enough wrinkles and enough new Pokemon that it's a new enough experience that, when I'm ready to play a Pokemon game, there's one I haven't played that I can play. I understand the criticism that they're all too similar, but if you're invested into the I guess the ritual of what Pokemon is, then there's something new to enjoy in each one. So I don't want to sound like a hater that my favorite one is the one from 99 or 2000, but Pokemon has, especially mechanically and content wise, gotten better with each one just about. I mentioned before that I started doing this. The last one I played was White 2. The tournament stuff at the end of White 2 is so dope. I played that awesome. A little too much, and yeah, I know I'm gonna eventually play X or Y or Omega or Alpha eventually, and I'll enjoy them when I play them because you know what you're getting out of a Pokemon game, but it's usually pretty cool.
And I totally agree with what you just said, Mike. And I love that when you want a Pokemon game, like when you want that loop, you could play any of them.
Yeah.
And I just think that like I said before, for me, I just can't do a Pokemon game right after another one because of those similarities. But that's not to say it's a bad game. In fact, I still have loved even X, which I haven't finished. I loved it, but I just couldn't do the loop again and find the same Pokemon again and have them in a party and be like, I need a little bit of space. But give it 2 months, 3 months, maybe a little bit, maybe a year. Yeah. The second I want to catch Pokemon, I want to have a team, I want to, be focused on training them up and all the rest of it. You can pick up any of them because they're all great and they do all offer something slightly different, if not very different.
So we've talked a bunch about kind of the series as a whole. Let's actually delve into playing the game.
Sure, like our current experiences playing Pokemon instead of our past experiences.
Yeah. So I kind of want to start off with the way that every game starts off and the actual starting Pokemon.
Right.
Do you guys have any strategies? Because I sure as hell do. I'm kind of interested to hear if you guys do too.
I always pick the grass starter the first time I play it because when I played Blue and Silver back in the day, my first ones were Bulbasaur and Chikorita. But this time I didn't. This time I didn't.
It was like a Mexican Pokemon.
Isn't that what it's called?
I don't know. They're just you put this Spanish flair on it.
Chikorita. I am getting the name right, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're fine. Josh is just a child. You're good.
Okay, sure. Okay, well, whatever. But this time I actually didn't pick a grass starter for each one because I picked Turtwig when I played Diamond ages ago, and I hadn't tried the other 2 starters. So for Platinum, I picked the water starter, Piplup, and for Red, I picked Charmander because I know he's the hardest one to start with, but whatever. He's on the cover of Red, and
he makes such a big difference in the long run.
Yeah, not really. I think in the long run, the best one's probably Squirtle. But this time I decided to go with Charmander basically on a whim. But my strategy is usually just throw me the grass starter and let me get started on my journey.
Yeah, kind of similar to Mike. The first time I ever played with Blue, I chose Squirtle. So in my head, it's just almost a ritual to always have the water type. So for Sapphire, I took Mudkip. But with Yellow, don't really get a choice, and I was fine with that. Just got my Pikachu.
See, the brilliance of Yellow, though, is you eventually get everything anyways.
I know, it's so great.
It just makes it easier.
That is cool. I don't really have a strategy when it comes to picking a starter Pokemon. I usually just go with which one I think looks cool. Like I'm serious. Like, well, my favorite Gen 2 Pokemon is Totodile. I went with Cyndaquil for this playthrough because Cyndaquil and its final evolution Typhlosion are like OP in this game. It's a really good Pokemon. But like, yeah, I don't really have a plan. Usually, I just go with whichever starter I like first, and try to change it up if I replay the game.
What about you, Marcos?
Yeah, for myself, I think I've almost always used a grass Pokemon for each game. Like for this one, I chose Snivy for my starter Pokemon.
Snivy.
Yeah, Snivy or Smugleaf to some others.
I always called it Snivy because I figured it was a snake, ivy snake.
Oh, maybe, yeah. I mean, like,
yeah.
Yeah, it probably is. I mean, maybe I'm saying Chikorita wrong, and you're saying it right.
Chikorita.
No, but
that does sound like something you'd order at like a Taco Bell menu. Oh yeah, I'll have the Chikorita, please.
With the fire sauce. That Baja Blast Mountain Dew with it.
It's super effective.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, it's my strategy is usually having a strong special / defense type Pokemon, generally because I don't know. They always end up being my tank characters when I try to catch Pokemon or legendaries later on, because you can just raise their special defense and defense really high, so they can take a beating while you're trying to catch them.
Oh god, I just realized Fire Sauce really would be super effective on a Chikorita because it's grass type.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's the joke.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that joke hit me like 15 seconds late.
And the Baja Blast, like a water attack, yeah.
It was a delayed joke, like
it's fine.
You used Fly or Dig or something.
It's a really bad joke now that you explained it, so I appreciate that.
It was a bad joke.
No, what are you talking about? You know, jokes are always better when you spend a full minute explaining them afterwards. Isn't that how jokes work?
Yeah, that's exactly.
Right, that's what I thought.
So I always pick fire. It's kind of a combination of kind of everybody else's reasoning. I picked Charmander at the beginning when I first started off, or well, I guess I didn't. I picked Pikachu because I got stuck with him. But Charmander was my favorite from the cartoon. So as soon as I played both Blue and Red, I went with Charmander. And then also like Peter, I've always thought the fire Pokemon look the best. And then they kind of match with my playstyle because I know I'm gonna get made fun of for this. So you know when they're like, "Hey, do you want to forget a move?" I go in and look, how much damage does this do? And I keep the most powerful things. And if there's defense up, attack up, speed up, any of those, I drop all of those. I get rid of any sort of attack that is status based.
That's a legitimate way to that is a legitimate way to play the game though, because while like for more advanced play, there are certain moves or attacks that like can be beneficial in the long run. For the most part, like a strong offense is how you play Pokemon.
I swing harder than you do, so even if you're gonna try to do something amazing, you're dead first.
If you're just playing the game to play the in-game stuff and not do like advanced battling or something, that is maybe the best strategy to have a high offense with a good variety in attack types.
And I just do everything super different, but everything's super powerful. Yeah,
just power and diversity balance. But if you were doing a like a serious competitive battling thing, you would get chewed up doing that.
Yeah, and then I never actually
gotten
competed,
chewed up doing that.
But I did go really, really dark for a little bit where I was breeding Pokemon and doing all the counting of abilities and doing some science with all that.
That's a slippery slope, man.
Yeah, that is a slippery slope. Because I remember I mentioned I didn't play Pokemon during the 3rd generation and got back in the 4th generation. By that time, I had full internet access, so I naturally did some research while I was playing Diamond, and I was just blown away at the concepts of EVs and IVs and like same type attack bonuses, which I didn't even know about when I was playing it the first time as a kid. I had no idea that Pokemon was that deep and esoteric. It turned out it had been like a hardcore game all along.
I was listening to some podcast. I don't even remember what it was, but it was from One Up, back when that was a thing, and somebody had mentioned that, and it was like my mind was blown. So like they don't have like it's not actually a stat that's really easy to see. For all intents and purposes, it doesn't exist.
You have to do calculus to find out IVs.
Practically. Yeah, and that's where I was just like, me being like kind of a math nerd, I was like, that's fascinating. So like I got really deep, and that's when that was the only time that I switched away from just being super powerful. Because I had this idea, I was like, as every little kid is like, oh, I could play this and make a bunch of money. I can like retire playing Pokemon. And so like that's where I was like, well, what is smart? And like that's where I started to get into like that more competitive mindset. But when it comes to the game, it's like, no, I'm gonna burn you down.
I mean, that's basically how I build a team. Is one representative of a different type for each slot at its max evolution that has a solid like attack, a solid couple of attacks of its own element, and maybe a couple wild cards in case they need them. But yeah, I don't focus on the competitive aspect of Pokemon.
Yeah, same.
I'm very much in it to win. Oh, and make sure that one Pokemon knows like Thunder Wave or something for legendary captures.
Yeah.
So I played with the Jigglypuff for sleep.
The best part of playing Soul Silver right now is that I'm training up a Flaffy so I can have Ampharos in my final team, and that any Pokemon that knows Static is like my automatic best friend, because yes, it still knows Thunder Wave, but sometimes I can just paralyze you by touching you.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
It's a useful ability. It saved me during the Whitney gym leader battle, because her Miltank paralyzed itself, and
yeah, I remember Whitney being really challenging playing her in Gold.
She's still challenging.
Like,
the time I died.
Because by then you don't really have any fighting Pokemon, or maybe you have a Machop.
You can get Machop if you go like looking, but you have to level them up.
Yeah, her Miltank will ruin your day if you're not prepared for it.
Sucks?
It's been a long time.
What sucks too is that I was training in Abra so I could get Kadabra.
Yes.
And when Abra evolves at level 16, it learns Confusion, but Abra leveled up to 16 and then fainted during the gym battle, so it didn't evolve, and now I have to wait till it gets to level 21 to learn Psybeam.
It's
like,
that stinks.
That's the worst.
Can I tell you about my weird difficulties playing these games? Or I will anyway.
Mike, I don't want you to talk.
All right. Well, playing Red, I mean, I've played Red and Blue probably the most out of any of these Pokemon games, so I'm well aware of the order of gym leaders and what each of them has. So even though I was at a slight disadvantage starting with Charmander, I caught a Pikachu just to prepare for Misty, and I caught a Nidoran and turned it into a Nidoking just to prepare for Lieutenant Surge. And so the first several gym leaders I was well prepared for, but for Platinum I had played Diamond, but this is actually a new game for me. I bought Platinum for cheap before this podcast, and I'm playing it for the podcast. And I had sort of forgotten what the order of gym leaders was, and I also decided I would have fun, and I traded some level 1 baby Pokemon from Diamond to my new Platinum game. And so I can, design this team ahead of time and run with the same team for the whole game. And I was not as, foresightful as I was for this than I was for Red, because I had forgotten that the second gym is grass, and I had a Piplup, the water starter, and the baby Pokemon I traded from Diamond would stop listening to me at level 10. So like when I tried to beat that grass gym, one of those times, my level 13 or whatever Bagon fell asleep in the middle of the battle because it decided to take a nap instead of attack. So I did not have anything that was the right type for grass. I had totally forgotten that grass was the gym there, except for my Bagon I think had Ember. And so I was just after getting my ass kicked a couple times in a row, I just went back to the first town, caught a Starly, which is like the bird the basic bird Pokemon of
Yeah.
of the 4th gen, and leveled it up just so I could have a flying Pokemon to kill the grass gym. It was a very frustrating hour or two, just having disobedient Pokemon and my water starter getting knocked around and stuff, just because I had forgotten what the 2nd gym was in Diamond, Pearl, Platinum.
So I've made X really easy for me accidentally. They do this thing. So they've always had experience share, but X is the first time I'm aware of that. If you turn that on, it shares experience with your whole party, not just one Pokemon.
Yes, and people get really mad about that because they think it makes the game too easy. I think it's brilliant.
I think it's brilliant because it makes the game no longer boring, where you sub in everybody and just kind of roll through. Because they knew everybody was doing that anyways.
Yeah, it saves so much time.
Yeah.
And so basically by doing that, you can just use the right Pokemon for every situation and still level up your party.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you only use one, obviously they're leveling up at half experience, but they're still getting something. So it kind of cuts down the grinding. It makes everything just more smooth, so it's more enjoyable. But I like the first 151. I really do. So I need a Haunter. I need a Kadabra. Like those are like two. Just they have to be there. And on one of the routes, there's like a 0.5% chance that you can get an Abra. So I wandered around I've probably played the game for, I don't know, a while. And I think about 80% of my gameplay has been on that route. Before I got an Abra, and then I saw one and it teleported before I could do anything. So I had to do it again. So yeah, I have a really beefy party now. But one of the interesting things was I was kind of surprised. If you usually do that for most games, I feel like you've ruined the game. You've so over leveled. I haven't felt like that yet for X. I feel like they're doing enough, kind of throwing things around, and maybe my party's not exactly what I want it to be yet. But I think it balances the game because they know you have the experience share, that it ramps up in difficulty quicker, which I've enjoyed.
The introduction of Mega Evolutions in X and Y, especially in the later game, kind of serves.
That stuff seems
also
insane to me. Woof.
They're so cool.
I'm
It's like
so
your Pokemon
excited.
Super Saiyan.
I'm so excited.
But once other trainers start getting Mega Evolutions, it's like their final Pokemon. It's almost always their final Pokemon, and it's almost kind of like this like mini boss within a boss fight, where it's like I think
most of the gym trainers have Mega Evolutions.
The gym trainers do not, but the final Team Flare guy does. The champion does.
Okay.
And I think in the post game, a few more characters do. In Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, actually, once you beat the Elite Four the first time, and if you go back, every single one of them has one.
Oh,
right.
So
I don't know.
Really
I don't know a ton about the different Mega Evolutions, but I did hear that one of the new Mega Evolutions from Alpha and Omega was the first Pokemon ever banned at every single level
Mega
of
Rayquaza. And
I think that's it.
The reason for that is because every mega Pokemon has to hold on to its corresponding Mega Stone, and that's supposed to be what balances them, is that they can't have hold items.
Sure, okay.
Rayquaza doesn't have that. Its Mega Evolution is an innate ability.
Whoa.
Cool.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's officially the brokest Pokemon in history.
Yeah, and it's already like insanely powerful as it is.
Yeah, no, I remember Rayquaza being a powerhouse before Mega Evolutions were a thing. That's nuts.
Yeah, like it's being banned is a very, very good thing.
Oh, now I mentioned for Platinum, I traded some baby Pokemon from Diamond, but I'm being exploitative in a different way for Red, and I had first heard about this thing probably 4 or 5 years ago, even though it's been around for 15 or 20 years. But there's a glitch that you can use in Red and Blue to get any Pokemon in the game in a random battle.
I love it.
Yeah, but basically it involves flying away like during a trainer encounter at a certain time, then go and fighting a Pokemon trainer of your choice, and based on the last Pokemon you defeat in that trainer battle, it'll set the random number generator to a certain value. And by manipulating what trainer you fight and what that value is, you can fight any Pokemon in the game's data. So if you use that trick to go to Cerulean City and fight a certain trainer that's in the north section above that bridge, you can basically set that and catch a Mew, which is the event only red blue Pokemon.
It's not supposed to be in the game data.
Yeah, well, no, it is supposed to be in the game data.
It's in the game data, but it's not supposed to be caught.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be catchable. So I did that because I had never I caught a Mew ages ago when I wanted to do a 151 playthrough for my copy of Blue, but for my copy of Red, I was like, I've never actually used Mew. I'll catch a Mew and level it up. So after I had gotten to the fourth gym, I caught a Mew, and now I'm basically soloing the rest of the game, or I should say duoing the rest of the game with Mew and Snorlax. Because I mentioned this before. Snorlax is my favorite Pokemon of all time. I love that fat guy.
Oh, I'm running a Snorlax as well in yellow.
It's your spirit Pokemon.
Yes, I mean, I just want to be a Snorlax, man. I'm just eating and sleeping all day, and if you wake up, I'm grumpy and attack.
I thought you wanted to be a Sollosi.
A Sollosis. A Sollosis. I don't want to be a Sollosis. A Sollosis is a weird psychic blob thing. I want to be a Snorlax, a big fat normal blob thing.
Have you seen that picture of Snorlax where it's like it shows all of its sprites and character models from throughout the years?
Oh yeah, like, it's slowly sitting up.
Yeah, it took Snorlax 20 years to get out of bed.
Yeah, that's right. Because in Red and Blue, he's like, it's like, well, I mean, Red and Green are the Pokemon games that we never got. We got their updated version. I say we by everyone other than Japan. But he starts out lying down, and with every generation, his pose is slightly curling upwards, like he's doing the world's slowest sit-up or something. And
he's got some massive abs just hanging there for years.
Just hanging there for 20 years.
Considering how tough a Pokemon it is, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, it's so yeah, whatever. So I love Snorlax. I've always loved Snorlax, and I'm beating Red. Now that I have a Snorlax and a Mew that I got basically around the same time, I'm just going to beat the rest of the game with them.
Nice.
Not quite as broken a glitch, but back when I played Coliseum on the GameCube, because every battle in Pokemon Coliseum is a double battle, there was a really weird item dupe glitch that they had where if you switched an item's position around in your menu and then canceled out and then did another action and then tried to use the item with your second Pokemon, then it would keep the item in your inventory. So I used that to have infinite Master Balls.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Which was fantastic. Why can't we have more Master Ball? Why can there only be one Master Ball?
I know. Just make like.
There's a way to get second. You can
clearly
use the lottery
not.
Remember in Gold you could get more by having the lottery, but it's and God, this is a little weird. When I was farming Pokemon in my copy of Fire Red and Emerald to send to my copy of Diamond, I would play the game super fast, get a Master Ball, and then attach the Master Ball to one of my Pokemon. Send over the Pokemon holding the Master Ball to Diamond. So I ended up using 5 or 6 Master Balls in that copy of Diamond.
That's solid.
They made sure that you couldn't do that anymore with Pokemon Bank because they introduced this new the Pokemon Bank app for X and Y, so you could keep your Pokemon in there. But it doesn't let them keep hold items, so no Megastone duping and no Master Ball duping.
That's probably fair, but
it's fair.
That's how I got most of the legendary Pokemon in Diamond.
I was just annoyed that I restarted a file and I wanted my Charizard X again, but I had to get the Megastone back.
So, speaking of kind of abnormalities or other ways you can play the game, Donnelly on the board asked if we were going to do anything special while playing through, and he or she asked if any of us were going to do Nuzlocke challenges, which I have no idea what that even is. So if one of you could explain that.
Right. So, Peter, do you want to go or should I?
You can go. I'll follow up.
Okay, now I might have a few details of this wrong. Nuzlocke is the name of either a forum poster or a blogger that decided on a whim to play a Pokemon game in an unusual way, and he liked it so much that he did a webcomic about it. And then that webcomic describing the Nuzlocke challenge, as it were, became popular among other Pokemon communities, and now it's a thing that some people do. Basically, you have your starting Pokemon, and whenever you enter a new area, whether it's a cave or a route or something, you're only allowed to catch and keep the first Pokemon you encounter.
So
Whether
if you
it's
don't catch that Pokemon, you're not allowed to catch anything in that area then.
Yes. And you're not allowed to go to a Pokemon Center to heal your Pokemon. You only can catch and keep and use the ones that the first one you encounter, and you can only heal them with items or with Pokemon abilities like Recover or Soft Boiled. So basically, that really limits what your team can be, and really makes it a very high risk because you can't use a Pokemon Center to recover.
But can you go to a Pokemon Center to use the computer?
I think so. So you can clear out room in your party for new Pokemon that you can possibly catch in a new area. But I don't remember all the specifics of it.
If they faint, you have to get rid of them.
That's right.
That's the gist of it.
It's dirty.
Wow.
That's right.
That's really dirty.
Which I want to say is insane because people have done Nuzlocke challenges of games like of the GameCube games, Coliseum and XD, where you have a finite roster of Pokemon. You can't catch wild Pokemon in Coliseum. There's only like 47 like shadow Pokemon that you can catch plus your two starters.
That's right. You like steal them from the evil criminals in that game.
Yeah, and people have Nuzlocked that game.
Oh.
Wow. So they Iron Man challenge it basically. I like that.
That is like, yeah.
I did a Nuzlocke using a guide on some GameFAQs forums, I think, when I was in that crazy Pokemon rut in like from 06 to 07.
Right.
And I did it on Pokemon Fire Red, which was the game I had kept restarting to, farm starters and stuff. And it's just stressful.
Sounds insane.
I used recommendations of the forum goers, so I think I had probably an easier time doing the Nuzlocke than for certain other games and other combinations. Right. But I didn't like it. That's not why I play Pokemon. I play Pokemon to catch a bunch of stuff and make a powerful party and beat the game, not to just struggle like with blood in my mouth as I play the game.
Yeah, that sounds dreadful.
So, I don't necessarily recommend a Nuzlocke challenge, but a lot of people in Pokemon communities really like doing them.
So, short answer for Domly is no. We are not.
That is accurate.
Yeah, that sounds terrible. Yeah, I'm just gonna be. I have my fingers crossed that I can just finish Pokemon in a month. I don't need the added stress of that.
I'm at the 5th or 6th gym for both of the two that I'm playing, so I won't have any trouble beating him the next week or two.
Yeah, they're not terribly long games, thankfully.
No.
If there's a bit of time spent grinding to build up your team.
Well, that's the issue I have is I just get sidetracked.
Go ahead.
I made the complaint, I guess, earlier that almost all the games have so much similarities that it feels the same. But there is something just fantastic about you're going on an adventure and you're wandering around and you're seeing this world, you're interacting with it, and that's why I like playing a new one every time. Is I do go on a new adventure, and
you fight new gym leaders and overthrow a new criminal organization, even though you're 10.
And it's the same thing every time I play it. I was like, why would this mom let me leave? Some old guy gave me a computer and let me just wander around.
Wander the world.
That sounds terrible. Every time I make that joke, every time I laugh at it, somehow that's not getting less funny. And
at least in Black and White, you're 16.
Yeah.
I think
every Pokemon game is actually child endangerment version.
But there's something special about that. I don't even think it's keyed into my nostalgia for the series. It's just going on an adventure. There's just something so pure about that is so enjoyable. So to finish these games, always I look at how long to beat the website and whatnot, and I the time I was no, I'm not even close to that. I'm always double that time because I wander and I get lost.
for me, and I'm thinking back to what Mike said about finding Mew. I remember back in the day, like finding Mew and finding these legendary Pokemon, like that's the kind of thing that like is like, playground talk for kids, like swapping
Absolutely.
secrets, like.
Yep.
And it's that I think that's a feeling that we've kind of lost in the modern age, and not to sound like overly nostalgic or anything, but it's one of those things where like there's a whole these theories about like how to catch Mew, and where these other like hidden Pokemon, that is there a Mew 3, because there's a Mew 2, like is there a Mew 3 or things like that, like and it sounds stupid now, but it's like that was kind of thing. I think Pokemon still, like, I think part of why it's so popular today still is it still maintains some of that, like, I guess, magic, if that makes any sense.
I mean, speaking of like talk, like at recess and whatnot, remember Missing Go?
Yeah, Missing No.
Missing No.
That-
Missing number.
Like that blew everybody's mind. It was just one of those things like now today, like that goes on. Like, I mean, there's a long page of it on Bulbapedia. Like you can just figure it out. But like back then, like we had no idea. And then you'd have your one friend that caught it and like erased his game file. And so then you're like, well, I have it too. Like, should I get rid of it? Do I have to put it in the computer? Like, you're freaking out, and that was like fantastic.
Yeah, no, and then like I remember when I saw my first shiny Pokemon.
Oh
like,
yeah.
When I think it was a shiny, like the guy had a shiny Furret or something, and then like I had no idea why its color was different.
I think I got a shiny Cubone at one point.
I've never caught a shiny, but I have a shiny Rayquaza thanks to event distributions. Yay!
I definitely have a shiny Gyarados in my
Gyarados.
Yeah, whatever.
Why do all of yours come out weird?
Maybe you're the one that's having them come out weird, but I don't know. I mean, I stopped watching the show so long ago and only read the names of these Pokemon. I probably mispronounce all of them. But you can get a shiny red Gyarados.
Gyarados. There you go. Gyarados.
That it's either Heart Gold, Soul Silver, or Diamond Pearl.
Yeah, it's Heart Gold, Soul Silver.
Yeah, because they give you one to catch, and
it's in my team.
I have a shiny. I have one or two shinies in that diamond file with like 470 Pokemon in it, but I haven't even encountered a shiny in this run of Platinum that I'm doing.
The chances of actually encountering, and this is another one of those things that's been like broken down by the community to the mathematical level. The chances of encountering a shiny in the wild is something like 1 in 8,000.
Yeah, I've never caught one.
Yeah, I was gonna say with Marcos, I've never gotten one.
Like if the internet didn't exist, I would call you all liars.
All you should do is type into YouTube, and they'll prove you wrong.
Or go into Cerebi.net and it'll show you the shiny color scheme of any Pokemon you look up.
No, I've seen it, but just with the internet, I would never have.
So to get my Abra, fuck. Way to go, Mike! You're just ruining everything.
Am I making you rethink how every Pokemon you say?
In the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, how would Mike say this? I'm like, I have to not say it like that, and then I say something even more screwed up.
Repeat after me. Chikorita.
Chikorita.
So while I was trying to get my Abra,
your Kadabra.
While I was trying to catch that Pokemon, that's the area where you're supposed to find it for the shiny. So like I followed the same pattern that because it was the same. I don't know, but I followed like all those guides to be able to get it. I was like, I don't even want a shiny one. I just want a regular one. Why can't I get a stupid regular one?
Trying to manipulate the random number generator in a certain way. That is all beyond me.
Yeah, I don't have time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Nope.
Some people do, but some people do, but you only find them on Pokemon forums on the internet.
Yeah. So. Yeah, so that's Pokemon. I know we kind of just skirted around the edges of what is Pokemon. I think next episode we'll actually kind of delve into more so our playthroughs, our stories about like kind of what happened. I really, really want to delve into what makes a perfect team for everybody. So we'll do that on the second episode when everybody has a chance to for sure get what they're
My
party was going
playthrough
to
of
be.
Red is basically a lot of
You don't
Snorlax used Body Slam. Snorlax used Body
Oh.
Slam.
Oh.
Snorlax used Rest.
See, before I got
Use
Snorlax,
Pokefood.
I would do Wigglytuff, put someone to sleep with singing, and then would rest beside the person, take a nap together, and then wake up and then body slam them to death. Love fun.
I think in Soul Silver they made it so that you can find Larvitar in the Safari Zone, so you don't just have to wait until you get to the last area of the game. So I'm raising a Tyranitar if possible.
Larvitar is one of the Pokemon I traded from
I
Diamond
have
to
one
Platinum.
of those.
So it's rock ground, so it got vine whipped to death over and over in that
Oh.
grass gym.
That's so sad.
So
Yeah.
my plan for Platinum is to have a team of the fully evolved Piplup, then a Tyranitar, a Salamence, and a Jolteon.
Nice.
I had a I had some sort of fossil T-Rex dinosaur, but now he's not in my party. How did that
Oh,
happen?
That's
oh shoot.
Tyrantrum. Tyrantrum is what you're
Yeah,
thinking of.
that's what it was.
The T-Rex,
That's
yeah.
Rock Dragon.
I have no idea where he
Tyranitar is
went.
Rock Dark.
Well, that's
He
confusing.
used to be in my main party. I swapped him out for a Zoroark, I think, which I was playing a multiplayer Pokemon with my cousin over Christmas break. But the Zoroark changes itself to mimic the last Pokemon in your team.
Oh,
Whoa.
So
was that
it's
added in black and white? Because that sounds
yeah.
familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a black and white. It's a Gen 5 Pokemon. It's just such a fun fake out tactic in multiplayer. It's not really like effective all that often, but like so I always have it mimic my Charizard. So he goes for a water move, and my Zoroark knows Grass Knot, which trips heavy Pokemon and does a crap ton of damage. So he went for his Blastoise, Grass Knot.
I remember Zoroark, but when I played White 2, I beat the whole game with Reuniclus, which is an evolved Sollosis, and Excadrill.
Right. That's fair enough.
Excadrill, that is an OP Pokemon in Gen 5. I love that thing. It's like a Diglett on steroids.
But yeah, so we'll delve all into that in the second episode. But we definitely want you guys to jump onto the boards. I'd love to hear what everybody else's favorite Pokemons are, what their favorite party is, how they pick their starting Pokemon, all of that. So if you guys could jump on the boards, which is at rpgfan.com. Snorlax.
Charmander, Char.
We should stop this before it gets any worse.
So yeah, you guys can go to the boards and do that. I don't even know what to say anymore. As always, you guys can send your emails to retro@rpgfan.com. Jump on those boards, go on iTunes or wherever else you're listening to this to. Give us those positive reviews. We love 5-star reviews. And I actually like the comments for the reviews even more because I love hearing feedback. And then we are only doing 2 episodes this month because of some personal stuff for me. So we had to condense down the month. So I'm going to announce what we're doing for February now because that's kind of confusing and weird and awesome. We're doing an indie month, and I do that in quotations if you couldn't see that. So instead of doing 1 game for the whole month, we're doing 1 game per podcast, and we're going to have 3 different games during the course of the month, during which we're going to play Gone Home, To the Moon.
It's pronounced to the Mune.
I was thinking of Pokemon, so
I've only seen that word that word, in print before, so I don't really know how to pronounce it.
So
but I'm pretty sure it's to the Mew.
I had Pokemon on the brain, so I was thinking To the Mew. Like, that's not, nobody wants to go there. To the Moon, and then Juniper's Knot. So we'll have a different cast for each game. We'll each be doing a full playthrough, and we'll already be in the game coming in. We'll kind of do a wrap-up thoughts. Something a little different with the new year, and we thought it would be kind of fun. But yeah, that's going to do it for Pokemon this time. Please come back for a second. Go around.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, friends.
Bye, friends.
Adios.
Adios.